much as we love real estate and it can be a great thing, like for some people, it's a headache and it's a problem.
I just got my first lawsuit as a landlord, so
there you go. Yeah,
there's some problems.
So much fun. Where's that property?
It's in Southland Park, man. Like, and crazy enough, like, tenant moved out like 8-9 months ago, and a lawsuit shows up in our email or whatnot, and we had a property manager, and there was some old when she moved out, but she never notified us like during her tenancy there, and apparently that's not sufficient. Where there's reasons that could have caused her for, I forget the term of the eviction, but she up and left because of there being mold there, and we should have known about it and been aware about it and done more checks on it. Even though obligation in California. So
to know about problems that exist that aren't brought to your attention.
Correct. And this is first, I had a conversation with the attorney, but as you say, like, what are some of these stories and problems that some of these landlords have? One, being a landlord in California is super tough. You got the eviction laws. You have, obviously everyone's sue happy here in California. So that's like a big problem. But beyond that, that's just on the investment landlord side, where we're seeing a lot of people just are done with California for a number of reasons and want to park their money in other states. On the side of like the market, right, we've done more creative deals this year, not a ton, probably 4, but probably more to come with some of our marketing and us understanding what we can do. No, it's probably about 6. So we've done some subject to deals, right, which is kind of the big buzzword these days. And Pace Morby's like the godfather of this stuff, where we've assumed their current mortgages because they have no equity in the property. And then we've taken them on, and at times we've kept the rental ourselves because we got a good interest rate, or we've assigned and sold that property to another buyer for a fee, and they're able to acquire that property for $10,000 or $20,000 down, right? Which is not normal. Normally you buy an investment property, you're putting 20-25% down. So that's been a situation that we've encountered a couple times this year. We've partnered with sellers, and this has been more common where they don't want to, so many people that we talk to, they don't want to list the properties, right? So it's like, what's their other options? Here's our cash offer. Like, that doesn't make sense for them. So what we've done is we've kind of done a joint venture with them. We've established a price that makes sense for them. And because of the hard money points, the carrying costs, because of all of that, it doesn't make sense to make them a cash offer. So we've taken on their mortgage, or maybe they don't have a mortgage, and we'll put money into their house, invest, bring it up to current standards with what people are looking for. Sometimes it's floors and paint and clean out, right? Put it on the market. And we've been able to kind of handle that situation in like 2.5 to 3 months versus, the general one where you got the carrying costs, you got the acquisition costs, it costs a lot more. You have way more risk. So those are just a couple ways that we've been able to be more creative. And for us, like we get probably 200 leads a month, right? And obviously we're not the perfect scenario for all of them. We're trying to have more tools in our tool belt to offer people for their unique situation. Because the cash offer is great for some. Maybe it's the subject to option for others. And maybe it's like the joint venture partnership for others that makes the most sense because they could put a little more money in their pocket if they're patient,
right?
If they can wait 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
The other thing we're seeing, there is a lot of debt. There's the banks aren't messing around anymore, right? Like for the phase where I was probably more into investing and starting to realize things like, they weren't foreclosing during COVID and 2 years after or whatever. Like they're not messing around the past like 18 months, and maybe it's been beyond that, but we're seeing a lot of properties go into foreclosure, and there's different opportunities to help the owner before it goes to auction, or come up with a solution for them if they're keeping their property for a short period of time and selling. So there's a number of different ways and things, and the foreclosure laws in California are pretty wacky too. So today's world, if you buy a house at the auction steps in California, you write that cashier's check to the trustee, your money could sit in a bank or just in a holding account for like 90 days. And you won that property, you were the highest bidder at the auction, you put in your cashier's check, there's a grace period or rescission period where they let that homeowner buy back the property, or they let, I think, a family member or a tenant or something like that buy back the property. So there's all these people that get first right of refusal, and then a nonprofit is next in line. They get an opportunity to buy the property, and if they don't buy it, then you can buy it. Meanwhile, your $300,000, $400,000 cash is sitting in a trustee's account.
And it might just be after 3 months, like, nah, nonprofit, got it.
Yeah,
See
I
ya.
have
Here's
no
your money
idea
back.
how people are making that like strategy work anymore. So California's got a number of funky things going on, specifically in the real estate world, tenancy, landlord, auction properties, where they're definitely trying to, you know, help people out that are on hard times. And it makes operating as a business owner a little challenging for sure.
Yeah. As a lifelong Californian and a business guy, I know firsthand that it's not the easiest, which is funny because I want to talk to you about some of your personal investments. I know you have personal investments in California. So part of you likes the pain, man. What's the latest on that fun project you got going on? Is it
Olivehurst.
Olivehurst? Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
11 or 14 units or something.
Yeah, it's 11 residential, 3 commercial, and like office. And then the cool part, it's on 3 acres. It's zoned mixed use. It's got commercial zoning, industrial zoning, and residential zoning. So the land can be pretty valuable as well, where there's 2 acres in the back that pretty much touches another street that we could get creative on. That particular one, like, I feel it is a massive headache, right? Why am I buying in California? The main reason buying in California is it's my backyard. I know how to find properties here, and I have contractors here. At some point, maybe down the line, you know, maybe move into like another state. That makes more sense. But the Olivehurst deal, there was the previous owner. I think he had some health issues, maybe some drinking issues. Had about 14 tenants there. Basically, none of them were paying at one point. They're basically squatting, took advantage of the guy. Code enforcement came, kicked everybody out, and boarded up the place. And they were going to condemn the property. So they were looking at like knocking down buildings if somebody wasn't going to do something about it. So I was negotiating with the guy for a couple months, and he wanted like $1 million plus. And I was like, no way, not going to do that unless I got some super great creative financing terms. I was like, I'll give you that if you give me like 0% interest.
For 40 years.
Yeah, I was like, do something like that. It was like, and you wanted to live in one of the units. It's like, sure, live in one of the units, 0% interest, like done. You're gonna stipend. Like, I can make this crazy price work for you if it's on my terms, right? That didn't happen. He ended up passing away. Again, had some health issues. County was going to condemn the properties. I'm working with the son. We basically worked out a price for $500,000, right? They carried 90%. So I put down like 50 grand. I had to take care of some back liens and everything. So the structure of it was pretty crazy. I think it ended up being like 35,000 a unit. But obviously you get a good deal like that, there comes with a lot of hair. So the code enforcement, they took all the electrical panels out, and working with PG&E is quite the hassle when you're trying to get electrical back up and running and panels hooked up, especially in an investment property. If you're the homeowner, you can get them to come out pretty quickly, but they don't care about landlords and time frames
Big
and all that.
fancy landlord.
Months out. So the power squatters came in, or nearby tweakers or homeless came in. They cut all the wiring right out of the property. They're cutting out the copper and selling it for whatever they needed to do with it. So we had to basically rewire the property. We had plumbing issues. The well was contaminated from a nearby gas station, actually. So we had to hook the water up to city utility. So massive headache, right? And I keep thinking to myself, why am I doing this? Why do I put myself in these? Because it's a distraction too, right? Like stay focused on my fix and flip business, stay focused on the wholesaling business that makes money, that's got the conveyor belt, that we created the systems that keep going. This over here is a distraction. It's taking time away. And ultimately, knowing internally, like, there's the tax benefits of owning real estate. And I think that's what I'm like summing it up to these days, because I don't really cash flow any of my properties. Like, we do own 50 units in in Sacramento area, and none of them cash flow really, maybe a little bit, nothing to brag about, but they've all created depreciation, right? And then you get some of these properties, something like this, bought it for 500. I'm probably going to put 400,000 into it, right? I'm going to borrow 400,000. I got the seller to carry like 450. Most of this money is not coming out of my pocket, and actually 1031 sold the property, rolled it into this one. So I'm going to get like a very nice tax advantage for the depreciation that's going to help offset my active income next year because of this massive headache. So that's like the main reason. And I just stick true to that, where I'm looking for assets to depreciate and offset my active income, knowing that this is going to appreciate over time. But ultimately owning here, like, it's just an appreciation game and it's a tax game for sure.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that people who are playing the long game, I look at it as a math nerd, and I'm just like, if the stuff goes up 5 or 6% a year, the debt gets paid down, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. Like, it doesn't take long before you start seeing, 7-figure gains.
Yeah.
In California, especially because properties are just worth more. So to wrap up that fun Olivehurst deal, like upon completion, what's that thing going to be worth? Like,
I think around like 1.5, maybe 1.4, and
Yeah.
I'll probably be into it maybe $1 million almost.